Hey guys, so this is an intermediary lesson that I want to use to fix an approach I took with the tail, which was probably not the best. But at the beginning of lesson 21, which is the first lesson for the tail rigging, I have a disclaimer about how imported sub rigs that were created with advanced skeleton will not work with the picker just yet, and that I was going to have to do some modifications to the picker code or extract some of the picker code to get it to work. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So if I was to open the sample picker and I was to run a simple operation that should typically work on any part of the rig on the tail, let me show you what's going to happen. So I'm going to grab all these FK controls and I'm going to bend them. And let's just say I wanted to do an IK-FK match, which is a very important function to have. So if I go on NIM and I go switch IK to FK, I have an error. And if I go look at the error message, somewhere during the process of the switch, a string has been created that advanced skeleton doesn't recognize. And I can immediately tell why. And it's because of my prefix, the string prefix that I used when I imported the tail. You see, for advanced skeleton, it's very important that you rely on namespaces. That's how it works when there are several advanced skeleton rigs in the scene. So using a string was just not a good idea. What's actually happening is that it's telling me at line 1709. So if I go look at line 1709 in the picker, 1709 is over here. It has generated an error here while attempting to look for the spline IK curve. It's hoping to find a namespace and then it's attaching a whole bunch of strings together to identify the control curve. And this is what it's coming up with right there. And that prefix that I have is what's making it break, so that advanced skeleton doesn't know what to do here. When it looks at this string and it says it doesn't exist, then it just returns this error, does not exist. So instead of coming in here and attempting to modify code, which would have been a really bad approach, because that's not the only function I'm going to have issues with. There's so many things in here that I 100% want to be able to use on the tail, switch pivot, quick IK. This approach is just not a good idea. So the solution really is to rely on namespaces. So if I was to bring in the tail again, let's say I was to go File, and I imported the tail, and I've given it a shorter name now just so that the namespace isn't so long. But if I was to go in here and I go import, because I'm now using namespaces, which I didn't point out, if you go in the import menu, you will see I've switched back to namespaces. Initially I was using a string and I've gone back to using namespaces. So this thing comes in with a namespace that is separated from each of the nodes with the help of a semicolon. And this, if I was to attempt to use any advanced skeleton picker function on it, if I move the rig out of the way and I was to select all these controls and bend them, and let's say I wanted to do an IK-FK switch and I go a NIM and I go switch IK to FK, there's no problem, right? I can run that function and so many others. All right, so what I'm going to do is go through the process again of importing the tail and setting it up. I don't have to redo everything. A lot of this stuff that I already created, I just have to unparent and reparent to certain things. I will have to, I think the one thing I'll have to do is definitely the repositioning and the recreating of the constraints, but the locators I created are fine. Almost everything I created is going to be fine. Even the custom attributes here on this tail space thing, it's going to be very easy to go back into the connection editor and reset up. All right, so I just wanted to come back with this sort of update to let you know that it's better to use the namespaces instead of the string. So if you watched lesson 23, the part where I'm doing the importing, you want to not go with that string approach and use your namespaces. I'll put a note in that part of the lesson to forward to this lesson, which is lesson 29, that talks about this better approach. All right. And I also want to point out that the way I'm going to do this replacement, or the way more specifically I'm going to get rid of the old tail stuff, is just to use my prefix. So I'm going to do a wildcard selection for my ktail underscore, which is what my prefix was. And I just want to make sure I get every node in the scene. That's why I'm going to go with a wildcard selection like this. And if I hit enter, it should select everything, including the nodes in the back end. If I go, if I uncheck DAG objects only, I should see a whole bunch of nodes in here. And I need to make sure I get all of them. And I'll just hit the delete key just to get this out of the scene. So I just wanted to let you know that's how I'm going to get rid of the tail I imported. I do want to be careful not to get rid of this control, because I don't want to have to recreate this control again. So when I do that ktail underscore star and it selects everything, I have to go in there and deselect this so that it doesn't get rid of this tail space control. Next week, I'm going to put out the skinning and then get started on the face rigging. So it'll be the skinning of the body done to completion, and then I'll start the rigging of the face. I probably won't get through all of it, but I'll try to get as much of it as possible, possibly the fitting and some other stuff. At the very least, I should go about halfway through the entire face fitting and building process. So I'll see you in the next set of lessons next week, where we do skinning and get started with the face.